Then I went to India the first time in 1974, and again in 76, and then so many times after that. But it's not just about going to India that makes for a transformation. It's also the people that you meet. So in my career, I met, in my opinion, firm opinion, at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5, 6 personalities who were, we call them Mahabhagavats, or liberated souls, or Jivan Muktas. In other words, they have realized their self, their soul. And there's different gradations and levels of such personalities, but still, coming from our position, it changes your life. It just, it's like connecting with a live wire. Because there's so much drab, humdrum in life that people want to change. They take a vacation, or they want a break, they want to escape. They want something that's satisfying deeper to the soul. Everyone's looking for it, Some people get, directed different ways. But anyway, that was, to me, the core meaningful thing in my life. And of course, just look at me, So it definitely causes a change externally, internally. But the internal changes is a real transformation. And we want to connect with bliss. We want to be happy. Everyone is living with a purpose of being happy, right? So not that happiness is just a short, temporary thing. We want lasting happiness. So this is what Bhakti Yoga is all about. And it all comes in increments, stages in your life. I remember I was actually just in New Zealand last month. So when I got there, it was complete déjà vu, because I had been there in 1969. And that's when I actually was first interested in yoga. I thought, let me check this yoga out. And before I left, actually in San Francisco, they had bookstores on Telegraph Avenue in Berkeley, if you've ever been there. They had all these books on meditation, yoga, and I was just reading them and I was enthralled. And so when I got to Auckland, New Zealand, I remember I met the first yoga teacher. And I went to the class. He did some demonstrations. So, that was, 69, so that's like 44 years ago. 44 years ago. So yoga is of course, for exercise, great, but for me and for a lot of people, it's like the first step in the deeper transformation that can take place, where you get acquainted with who you are and what's it all about. So anyway, it's very nice. Whoever is the owner of the studio who's making a facility.
It's Carla.
Oh, you're Carla. Oh, very nice to meet you. And so anyway, this is a tambura. I got this in San Rafael. They have Ali Akbar Khan School of Music, and they sell tamburas, sitars, tablas. And this is a westernized version. The ones they make in India have these knobs that you screw. But when I had it, when the knobs kept coming loose, and I got tired of trying to tighten them up again, so This one has, much better control with strings. So I thought, we do a little kirtan. I know you're having kirtan on Saturday.
Yeah.
At 7. Yeah, that's good. And I was, almost every year I go to Bhakti Fest in Palm Springs, or near Palm Springs. So I went there this year also. And it was so enlivening, one of our premises is that actually there will be, eventually, this will be the religion for this age, just chanting the name of God. We call it Sankirtan, Kirtan Yoga. There's a prime meditation and a prime redeemer, the prime activity for self-fulfillment. So, I was going to chant Om, but I chant it a little different than you chant. We chant Hari Om. Hari is, Om also is the name of God, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Of sounds, I am the syllable Omkar, in chapter 10. But Hari, Om, is a little more personal. So it's very good. So I chant Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. Let's see how we do it now. We did it the other night. Om Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. 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 Do you have a harmonium? Oh, here. Oh, okay. You can play one?
I only know one song. I'm just learning it.
Oh, just learning.
It is a good. You can play it though.
I brought one on the plane with me from New Zealand. Because it's about the same size. You know, I kept thinking, how am I going to get this on the plane? They're not going to let me take it on, you know. So I was thinking, and this other person with me, why don't you just put it in your bag? It's about the same size. So I took everything out of my bag, and I put this in, and it fit. So I stuffed everything I had in these two other cloth bags, and I got on. No extra charge. But I think that the harmonium is actually, is it German or English?
English.
English. But Indians took it over. It's like tea, you know.
Works well.
Yeah. There was never tea in India, I heard, until the British came in, and then they started the tea. Now India produces so much tea. So many tunes the person can make. This is in the key of A. So, you're familiar with the Hare Krishna mantra? Or we can chant anything, but you familiar? Everyone's familiar? Yeah? Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, So, Agyanatimarandasya Ginandana Salakaya Chaksuramaditamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam in Bhuttara Sakaram Vedatishvara Parantekam. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagarpate Gopisha Gopika Kandara Kanta Namostite Dapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhi Vrindavan Ishwari Vishabhanu Shuti Devi Pranami Hari Priya. So you know this picture, it's Lakshmi, right? So Lakshmi is Shakti, she is the power. That means female energy is the power.
Yo, Randy won this crowd over.
So that energy can also even be in the male form, in the sense of when people do astrological charts, they actually look at your female and male disposition, and they can see how much actual male is in your male form, or how much female kind of mentality is there. But anyway, Lakshmi is Shakti, and there is Shaktiman, which is another Sanskrit word which means the Lord of Shakti, or the controller of Shakti. So in that case, in Lakshmi's case, that is Narayan. No, he's not pictured here. But there is a four-handed form of the male Purusha person who is Narayan. Lakshmi is the counterpart of the Shaktiman, the controller of energy, Narayan. But in one sense also they are one. They're in one sense not different. So we are worshippers, I brought the deity here, of Radha and Krishna. So Radha is, according to our understanding, the origin of the forms or the manifestations of Lakshmi. And her counterpart is Krishna. And Krishna is considered to be, in our theology, the source of Narayan, the four-handed form. So last night we had a program in Pembroke Pines. So there was one Indian there. He said, I always accepted Narayan as God. He says, I heard Krishna was God, but it was very hard for me to accept. Because Krishna looks like an ordinary human. Just like a little kid. But Narayan has 4 hands. He has, in each of the hands, a club, a lotus flower, a mace, a disc, and a conch shell. Lakshmi has, Lakshmi has the lotus flower in 2 hands, but Narayan, you'll see the lotus flower, the discus, the club, and the conch shell. So in India, a lot of people think, well, this must be the Supreme God. You don't find anyone looking like that. But there is, we have a map. Actually, we should have brought it. He has a map in his house. It's called the map of everything. The scientists, the physicists, they're trying to discover the theory of everything, TOE, TOE, or they call it the unified theory, the idea that can explain everything. So in the map that we haven't brought, but maybe another time, it gives a concept from the Vedas of everything. So we are in what is called, the material worlds, where everything is composed of matter, but the matter comes to life by spiritual energy, which we call the soul, or in Sanskrit is called the jiva, jiv atma. Just like on your computer, it says Intel inside. So here is atma inside, right? But there's no label. But we know it's got to be there. Otherwise, how we are alive? What is the difference between a dead body and a living body? They look the same. I mean, not if there's an immediate death, they look the same. One friend of mine, very good friend in Los Angeles, he got cancer and he was gone in a couple weeks. Very young, I couldn't believe it. And he was one of the biggest sort of promulgators of raw food diets, supplementing your life with this and that and everything. But he got cancer, and all his friends in Los Angeles, all the nutritionists and naturopathic people, they couldn't save him. So I went to his funeral. He was cremated in Los Angeles. And they pulled him out, for a last look for people. And when I looked at him, I thought, God, he looks the same. He looked like he was alive. But, obviously he was dead because 5 minutes he was ashes. So what is it that, constitutes the difference between the dead and the living? It's when the soul is present, we are alive. When the soul is out, there's no life, we are dead. Even if the brain is dead, the heart stops. If the soul is still in the body, it was alive. And sometimes they have these testimonies in hospitals where a patient, the doctor says, your brain was dead, your heart was not pumping, and they say, well, I wasn't in my body, I was watching you doing all the surgery. I said, what? Yeah. And there's, I forget some book I read in. This one person was saying, yeah, and one of the nurses, she had gone to some jewelry store to buy a wedding ring, there was a marriage happening, and she would recite the whole conversation. And doctors would like dumbfounded. How did you possibly understand what was going on when your brain was dead and your heart stopped? It means the person is the soul. So we are not a body with a soul, we are a soul with a body. Does that make sense? So this is called, identity of who we are. So this is the great thing about, spiritual understanding. You get to understand first, who am I, Because so much of life can be spent just finding out, who am I, Before you find out even what am I doing here, who am I, So then we establish, by logic and by reference to, of course, we say the Vedas because they're considered to be perfect, without any fault, which is called aparashaya in Sanskrit. As human beings, we have 4 faults, everyone. We make mistakes, we are illusioned at times, we are subject to imperfection in our senses. We can't, gather what's on the other side of that wall unless we go there, but from here we can't see. And then there's a tendency in everyone to cheat or make a shortcut, some more than others, especially during, the time paying taxes. So, but in the Vedas, they're considered beyond all these 4 imperfections. So they are a great source of reaffirming what we may come to realize and understand. I am the soul, and therefore when I die, the body is gone, but I continue to live. So if you know you don't really die, what is the fear of death? And death is the greatest fear, generally. So really this sort of consciousness is simply to remove all anxiety in life. Complete freedom, from anxiety, worry. And where does disease come from mostly? Worry. Why people, there's a book I read when I was in Florida last year. So the lady who let me use her house, she had a book by Carolyn Miss. You ever read her? She was explaining how so many people were traumatized or very disturbed, and as a consequence, there was cancer, there was this disease, So she was just tracing back the disease to the mental distress the persons were going through. So if our mind can be very calm and peaceful, we should be, immunized from a course of disease and distress that other people may get. And this is also the teaching of Bhagavad Gita by Krishna. It's called being ambivalent or equipoised in any situation. Whether you're in distress or whether on the other side you're elated. So by karma, which is the inheritance from what we did in the last life, we get this life. We get a certain amount of happiness, a certain amount of distress. So how do we react to the happiness? How do we react to the distress? So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, be ambivalent, be equipoised, be stable. Don't be disturbed by what others do to you, and don't disturb others. Right? Do as you would have others do to you. So if we don't agitate others, we don't disturb others, and then at the same time, what others do to us that doesn't disturb us, we are actually yogis. But if some people say, oh, that person pushed my buttons, I used to have a factory in San Diego. We made health bars. It was called Govinda's Bliss Bars. They're no longer here, but they were pretty popular in the 90s. And one of the workers, he was of South America, but he laid into one of the other workers. And I said, why did you do that? He says, I don't know, he just pressed my buttons. I said, but you're supposed to be, controlled, not give into this. So we shouldn't have, everyone has sensitivities, and maybe we have certain things we're very sensitive about, but really, it's all in here, it's in the mind. If we understand, I am the soul, I'm not this physical body, but I'm also not the mind. The mind is also material. So people criticize. I know in high school there's a lot of problems with bullying, and you all went through high school, so some people said things about you, and when you're a high school kid, it really hurts. A friend of mine, he just left high school. He said, for a year and a half, I didn't go to high school. I couldn't handle it. And I remember going through so much. So people criticize your body. So on one level, that hurts. But on another level, there's a mental level of, people criticizing your beliefs or criticizing what you think. Everyone on the internet today, they're discussing, and there's forums and there's chat things, People say, well, why do you think like that? So, anyway, one of the purposes of yoga is also, besides tuning up your body, is to tune up your sensitivities, your mind, so you can handle and deal with life without being disturbed. And this also is why we incorporate the mantras, the chanting. The chanting creates a spiritual atmosphere. It reaffirms your spiritual identity. And even more so, it awakens your relationship with the Supreme Entity. Because we are souls. This is one of the axioms in the Vedas, Aham Brahmasmi, I am, Aham, I, Brahmasmi, spirit. But that spirit also has a relationship with the Supreme Spirit. You can call a higher power or to God. So somebody the other day was saying, well, I knew this guy, but he's no longer with his wife. He has another relationship. So people are changing relationships, looking for a perfect relationship, an ideal relationship, a soulmate. But really, all these relationships are temporary. And if we cling to these relationships that are in the material sense, that can create a bondage in this world for us, for the soul. Because the soul really is alien. It doesn't belong in the material atmosphere. It belongs in the spiritual atmosphere. So real yoga means to take the soul out of this material atmosphere, the material world, into the spiritual world. And their relationships are eternal. They don't disappoint. They're never separated. But in this world, relationships are very temporary. So if we cling on to some relationship and become attached, then we're going to be eventually upset. So this is why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna also teaches detachment in your affairs, whether it's your family, your children, your husband, or your wife, that these affairs eventually they will come to an end. So we have to be detached. Otherwise, if one of the partners disappears or there's some divorce, it affects the heart. And there's so many groups in America just dealing with people who've had relationships that are broken apart. Right? So yoga incorporates so much, You could speak on yoga from now practically to eternity. And that is called kata. Kata is Sanskrit for just discussion, But the discussion has a focus, a center, on our relationship with the Supreme Absolute. Because once that opens up, which is what yoga really eventually brings us to, then we're fulfilled. And when we're fulfilled, we don't need anything. We're, there. So we want to get there. And there's a Sanskrit word called yukta. Yukta means that connection. When you're there and you're established, self-established. So when we hear these things, sometimes, we may not quite understand exactly what it is, but we hear a little more and a little more from different personalities. Then eventually some dawning comes, some realization, and you climb up the yoga ladder. Right? So like karma yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga. But eventually, the way we understand, the highest is the bhakti. The bhakti is love, devotion, without any motive to this Supreme Absolute. So if there's love with a motive, is it really love? No. If I love you because I like the way you look, that's still compromise, because maybe something happens to your looks. Everyone gets old. So if somebody's attached to somebody else because they look good, in 20 years, does that mean they're not going to love them? So it has to be love transcending the physical and even the mental. So bhakti is about love on a divine level, which is free from lust. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna examines this lust, which is called Kam, is the all-devouring, sinful enemy of the world. Kama esha, krodha esha, rajaguna, samudbhavaha. So, love and lust are related. Because when lust is purified and transformed, it turns into love. And when there's material relationships, basically it's lust, according to our definition. But when there's love on a spiritual dimension, it's no longer lust, it's love. So Bhakti Yoga is climbing in a conscious way to a level of pure divine love with the help of those who are actual lovers of God. So, in our discipline, every discipline that you require a teacher, like you're learning yoga from Carla, maybe Carla learned from somebody else. So in spiritual discipline also, it's absolutely necessary to have a guru or a teacher. But the teacher should be ideal. He should have no motive, no designs, material designs. Right? In America, we've had many schools of yoga. I won't mention names, but so many people from India have come, start yoga schools. And then after some time, you find out, because in yoga clubs, the person takes advantage of the ladies, and then there's an expose, oh, he did this, he did that. So a real teacher, he has no designs, he has no wants from you. He only wants to give, because that is genuine love. And when there's genuine love, there's no personal desire. Like when we speak about Radha, like she's like Lakshmi, her love is such that even if Krishna enjoys with other gopis in front of her, her love is not disturbed. She still loves him. Right? You can't imagine that. In an American relationship, if your husband directly in front of you is enjoying with another woman, what woman could handle it? As Radha, her opinion, even if Krishna enjoys with another lover, gopi, even in front of me, my love for him is not in the least disturbed. So, those who are in that category of love, when they come into this world, they're called gurus or sadhus. If you meet such personalities, or if you go to India, generally India is like a monopoly of such sadhus, it's very, very transforming. And I know you're organizing a trip to India this year?
Yeah, in November.
So you're very lucky. Anyway, it's nice to meet all of you. If you have any questions or comments.
Raj, can you talk a little bit more about karma and so much like the vegetarianism and why we don't eat the cow?
Nice to meet you. Karma is like I said, it's inheritance from a previous life. Some people, they're not quite sure about a previous life, or whether we're going to be here again. But eventually science will prove it out. And there's a professor at the University of Virginia, Ian Stevenson. He has a book, I don't know the name of the book. And there's also a guy called Brian Weiss. He also writes about this. But he does this Ian Stevenson does a hypnosis, a clinical hypnosis, whereby people are regressed 50 years, even 100 years in the past. And then they ask the person, can you say where you are? And under trance, the person will say, I'm in Germany, or I'm in France. And where did you live? And the person will describe, the location, the people they knew. And then the doctor will play the tape, and the person comes out of trance. And sometimes they'll go to these places, and the person will have a very mystical experience. Or sometimes the person will speak in trance in a different language. The doctor will play the tape, say, this is you speaking in French. I don't know French. So you're speaking in French? So eventually science will prove the truth, Just like science proved that the earth is going around the sun, right? Before people thought, well, the sun goes around the earth. So people came to learn otherwise. So similarly, our consciousness is just living in this body now. It never dies. So we had a previous existence. And you can also have, according to your thoughts at the time of death, another existence. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yam yam vapi shmaram bhavam tidati ante kalevram. Whatever you're thinking about at the moment of death, that's where you're going to go in your next life, if you are not liberated. The real purpose of yoga is to get liberated so we don't have to come back. Why don't we want to come back to this world? Because we're forced to die, we're forced to get disease, we're forced to get old, we're forced to undergo so much struggle. And this is why in Sanskrit this world is called Martya Loka, the world of death. Whereas in the higher worlds there's no death. So anyway, our karma is like the cards we're dealt with from the very day one. And we can't change that. We're going to get a certain amount of wealth, we're going to get a certain amount of health, education. All this is really predetermined. Even though, we think, I have free will, I can choose to go to this school, I can choose to go to that school. But sometimes you can also meet, particularly in India, sometimes in America, people who will tell you where you're going to be in 1 year, which person you're going to marry, how many kids you're going to have, when your father and mother are going to leave. How do they know all this? Because actually all these things are cosmically embedded. So we can never be upset what comes in life, because we are really the creators of what we're experiencing as far as our situation. In other words, how we deal with people and how we deal with things, it's a precursor to what will happen in the future. So therefore, we say you should treat everyone with respect. Some people are higher than you, more advanced, in your feeling, senior to you. So we say that you should treat those people very respectfully, or serve them. If they're superior to you in knowledge or consciousness, you serve them. Those who are like your peers, your equals, you should always be friendly to. And those who are inferior, for some reason they're less educated or less endowed, you should treat them with compassion. You should help them. So if you help those below you, serve those higher than you, and be friendly with everyone on the same level, you will never have a problem in life. So anyway, as far as the last thing you mentioned about diet does have a lot to do with reception and understanding. So we definitely recommend eating lower on the food chain, as far as what we take from the planet and what pain is involved in our diet. So the less pain to others that is involved, the better. And generally that's the better for your health too. Because of course yoga means really getting healthy and happy. All right. So can we chant once more and then we can finish? Unless anyone has other questions.
Maharaj, can you say a little piece about Maya?
Maya? Maya just means illusion.
The illusory energy.
What appears to be real, but actually is not. And the proclamation in the Vedas is, come out of the darkness into the light. So we may have the blinders on. We may not be able to see. So who takes those blinders off? Actually, that is the spiritual master. When you meet your master, he will remove the blinders, you will see. So we should have some urge, some desire, and that desire comes to meet actually a master, right? Then he will bring us into the light, show what is the real situation. So if that dawns in a person's heart, that is a great blessing. Otherwise, people spend so much time thinking, arranging the material, fulfilling the material desires, as far as a partner in life, as far as a location in life, as far as a job in life, all these things. But the real priority is to know who I am and my purpose. And then everything else just becomes secondary, and not to worry about that. Okay, so we'll just chant this Om again. Om Hari Om.